This conference will now be recorded.
I'd like to call the caucus meeting of February 2nd, 2021 to order. Present are council members Brassard, Williamson, Schuman, Limpert, Heeman, Glassburn, and Kelly, the law director, and our guests this evening. Before we get to tonight's agenda, are there any additions or corrections to the caucus meeting minutes of January 5th and 19th, 2021? Seeing no additions or corrections, those meeting minutes will stand as written. And on tonight's agenda, we have one piece of legislation to be considered for suspension of the rules this evening. That is Resolution 2021-11, establishing a program for financial assistance for small businesses in the city of North Olmsted and declaring an emergency. This is on second reading, and this was heard in the Finance Committee. Councilman Schuman?
I don't believe we actually voted on suspension, but I have no problem with suspension this evening.
Thank you. Any objection to suspension? Councilwoman Heeman, I saw that you have amendments that you were looking to make on Resolution 2021-11. Would you like to bring those up to council at this point?
I will. Madam Chair, I think Mr. Glassburn had his hand up if there was something he wanted to say first. Or no, he says he's good. Okay, thank you. I'll be very quick. So I think, everyone should have seen the amendments. I had our clerk of council circulate a red line copy for clarity of what they were going to, what the amendments, proposed amendments are. And in the actual legislation itself, we have section 1. We've added the full term Small Business Relief Board. I think it just maybe said, Small Business Board or something. We've added a section 2, and that states that the aforementioned business relief program shall be funded as outlined in the City of North Olmsted temporary budget and shall receive additional funds as presented by separate legislation. And so then, of course, we've changed section 2 to be section 3. On the exhibit, most of the changes were just punctuation that I apologize to my colleagues. I did not have my little legal eagle eye going and miss some of those things. We will be making Exhibit A a header instead of a sticker, so it will be on every page. The substantive changes, however, are on page 1, that item number 1, we are changing that the mayor may appoint someone from within his administration, just to clarify, so that he does have someone representing the administration. The other substantive change on page 1 is that we've also now stated that no person within the employment of the City of North Olmsted and no member of its elected officers or any of their businesses shall be eligible for an award granted under this program. Page 2, we've also added the state of Ohio and any other taxing authority, so all taxes must be current for the applicants. Item 3 on page 2, we've clarified just realty to be real estate companies so that it's a little bit more clear. And I think that does it for any substantive changes. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any questions from council members? Okay, seeing none. Thank you. Looking on to let the record reflect that the finance director is present at our meeting as well. And looking into establishing committee meetings for next week, on first reading, ordinance 2021-12 will go into finance. Ordinance 2021-13 will go into public safety. Resolution 2021-14 will go into finance. and ordinance 2021-15 will go into finance. And so looking ahead to next Tuesday, February 9th, Councilman Broussard.
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, we'll schedule a Public Safety, Health and Welfare Committee on February 9th, beginning at 7 p.m. And it doesn't look like we'll need more than 10 minutes for this, so we'll go 7 to 7:10. And gosh, I would ask that perhaps the police chief or his designee be present.
Thank you. Councilman Schuman.
So we'll go ahead and schedule the Finance Committee for 7:10. And I'm assuming since this is going to include the budget that we would pretty much want to have all the directors there and the mayor, maybe his designees. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, that is it from my end for this evening. Council members, is there anything for the good of the order? Councilman Glassman.
The permanent budget that was sent today that's slated for introduction. In addition to the permanent budget not including the amendments that were made by council, the fact that those amendments are omitted is not included in the changes listed on the package that we received for the permanent budget. So I would hope that we get an explanation tonight from the administration as to why both the amendments were not included, and secondly, why they did not mention in their document that they had removed the amendments.
Director Kopfer.
Yes, I'm sorry if it wasn't clear, but I thought that I made it clear that the administration started from the administration's final budget before the amendments that were on the floor. It says on the spreadsheet that had like the summary of all of them, the column was the temporary administration final budget. And so I'm sorry if that wasn't clear. I thought I also explained it, but I apologize. So that's where it starts from. As you can tell, there are some things that were incorporated into the mayor's permanent budget, one of which was the reduction of the fireworks and also the transfer of the monies that were discussed in the Finance Committee, and that will now be going to the Economic Development Fund, since the Economic Development Fund had been subsequently amended its purpose to include business retention. So that's a worthy expenditure out of that fund. So those two items were technically part of the council's amendments, and they are included in the mayor's budget, the permanent budget that he put forth.
Councilman Heeman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Director Kopfer, I guess the question I have about that, and I didn't take a deep dive into it because, you know, we weren't going to really have to address it this evening, but I did glance at it. I will go over it more carefully this week. But why are we not starting with the document being the temporary budget that we passed and voted on as legislation versus backtrack back to the budget we did not pass? I guess, Law Director, do we not, maybe you can jump in here. Are we not supposed to start with what we passed as our temporary budget? Or we just disregard that document completely?
Madam President, if I may.
Go ahead, Director.
Thank you. As the mayor's responsibility is to submit an appropriation ordinance to the council. And so the mayor has the authority to include in that appropriation ordinance those things that he feels are necessary or essential, or that he wishes to put in there. So the process that the council would use would be the same committee process that it utilized before to discuss those issues and to make those amendments that it sees fit. So it doesn't start with the temporary because this is the permanent. So it's a position that the mayor's ordinance, so the mayor can decide how he wants to present it, and then you guys will do the normal route that you would typically do with any ordinance. So yeah, he's allowed to do that. It's just, and you also are allowed to do as you see fit with his proposal and amend it if you see fit or pass it as it sits. So.
All right. Seeing no other questions from council members at this time, we will.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Councilman
Real
Schuman.
quick, and I'll be reporting it out on it this evening, but we had two things we mentioned as far as amendments to 2021-11, and one of those was the creation of this other fund. But since the law director and the finance director, this was actually the finance director's recommendation to create this other fund, but since they've found it appropriate to use the fund that they're using, that amendment won't come up. And the other one was more of a recommendation, and that was about money. And since there's no dollar amount in this piece of legislation, then that won't be an amendment either tonight. So I will have offering no amendments tonight on 2021-11. Just FYI.
Thank you. Okay, seeing nothing else, we will conclude our caucus at 7:57 p.m. and we will see you all in a few minutes at 8 o'clock for our meeting. Thank you.